Welcome to 10 Developmentally Appropriate Practices and the KEA Formative Assessment Process. These webinars have been designed to illustrate the alignment of the 10 developmentally appropriate practices and the KEA Formative Assessment Process. We hope that these will help implementers within our region to better align practices and see the KEA formative assessment process as embedded within the instructional routine. I am Heather Boston, a regional implementation team member, and I am joined by Leslie Simmons, the K-3 formative assessment process consultant for the Southeast region for the Department of Public Instruction. Today we're going to focus on the emotional literacy progression. A series of these will be created for each of the progressions. Today we will specifically focus on how we can embed emotional literacy within the classroom through developmentally appropriate practices. As you can see from this slide, the KEA emotional literacy progression starts with children understanding that emotions may be experienced in their bodies and expressed in their behaviors. After that, children understand that emotions may be recognized in themselves and others. This slide shows the next steps within their understanding. Children understand that emotions may be recognized in themselves and others continues on this page, but their understanding becomes deeper, going from independently labeling emotions in self and others to labeling higher order emotions such as confused, worried, surprised in self and others. The next understanding is that children understand that emotions have causes and effects and that people may feel and respond differently in similar situations. Developing emotional literacy within children is critical to their success in school life and careers. There are 9 skills within the emotional literacy construct progression that need to be explicitly taught to ensure our students have the emotional skills to work and collaborate within a variety of settings. Some may wonder how this aligns to the North Carolina Standard Course of Study. Below you will see the standards that align to social emotional literacy. The first comes from the kindergarten standards. Students will remember the association of healthy expression of emotions, mental health, and healthy behavior. And the next one is from the first grade standards. Understand the relationships among healthy expression of emotions, mental health, and healthy behavior. It also aligns with the North Carolina Foundation of Early Learning and Development. Within this PowerPoint, you will see a link at the bottom that can take you to these standards. As you can see, the standards include children demonstrating a positive sense of self-identity and self-awareness, children identifying, managing, and expressing their feelings, children recognizing and responding to the needs and feelings of others within the classroom or other environments. Children develop awareness of their need and the ability to communicate their needs. Children speak audibly and express thoughts, feelings, and ideas clearly. Children can speak audibly and express thoughts, feelings, and ideas clearly. Emotional literacy, unpacking emotional literacy within the classroom. Our hope is to give you a deeper understanding of the emotional literacy constructs and how they might look within the classroom and where they're embedded within the classroom so that we can better collect evidences of students and where they are within the construct. Then set goals to continue to develop their emotional literacy and move them forward within the classroom. The definition is to accurately identify and understand feelings. Emotional literacy focuses on making students aware of the emotions they are feeling, understanding why they might feel an emotion, understanding and taking into account the feelings of others and adjusting their responses accordingly, knowing the most effective way to express feelings, and being able to put that into action. On this next slide, it talks about the developmentally appropriate practice of facilitating learning, acknowledging student emotions. As you can see, there are a bunch of different feeling faces, and it says, "Sometimes I feel." Research shows that children who are better able to control their emotions have better relationships with peers. Children who have greater knowledge of emotions are better able to pay attention to emotions and to academic tasks. Students first learn to recognize emotions in their own feelings, thoughts, and body experiences, and from the face and body of others. They realize that when there are tears rolling down their face, they feel sad. When they are laughing, they are happy. And they start to identify those emotions in others, realizing that if another student has tears in their eyes, they too are likely feeling sad. And if they're laughing, they're likely feeling happy. They start to identify different body posturing with different feelings. Crossed arms might indicate that a student is upset. A clenched fist might indicate they are angry. They also start to manage their own behaviors as they begin to better understand and recognize them. The next developmentally appropriate practice is encourage. This also stands to the North Carolina Professional Teaching Standards number 2. Encourage an environment that is inviting, respectful, supportive, and inclusive, while still being flexible, and designing an environment that facilitates the sharing of emotions and their development will increase student success academically and socially. Within the classroom, we want to encourage students to label their own emotions in order to help them to better manage their emotions. We also want to encourage students to recognize how people's actions impact the emotions of others within our text that we are reading in the classroom and within others in the classroom. Encouraging students to identify feeling words within the text and looking for causes builds their emotional literacy. The next developmentally appropriate practice is feedback. We must communicate areas of strength and areas for growth through specific feedback via communication loops among students, home, and educational stakeholders. We need to engage students within this process, and we need to ensure that we are talking about it through instructional conferences. We must plan instruction with the student and others' stakeholders' feedback in mind. Engaging in feedback conversations with students engages them in the improvement process. Invite students to be a part of the plan, do, study, act process, and observe their increased commitment given their mutual understanding of the established goals and actions towards achievement of a new understanding. Providing students with feedback about their performance within the classroom can result in a variety of emotions. An example of the tie between feedback and performance is shown in the descriptor for understanding C, expresses emotions through language, posture, and gesture suitable to the context. It reads, Lucas is painting at the easel and is praised by his teacher. His face shows pride. Pointing this out builds the student's emotional understanding and allows them to connect their feelings to an event. The next practice is modeling emotional literacy. Modeling emotional literacy is important to students developing behaviors associated with emotional literacy. These behaviors are not always instinctual. Opportunities to learn, observe, and model are important to children becoming emotionally literate. In order to help support their learning, we must first look at situations from an emotional perspective and point out how emotions are tied to those situations. This is the I do in modeling. For example, while reading a poem about swinging and a child feeling happy, I might point out that when I swing, my belly tickles. There's a smile on my face. I know that I'm happy because of those feelings. We also need to provide students with the opportunities to role play and model the responses and actions that are appropriate for situations. This can be done in a I do, we do, you do situation. For example, if students are needing to learn how to share materials within the classroom, first I would model how we will react when someone comes to join and wants to share materials. I will model for the students what each of the students will say, the one who wants the materials to be shared and the one who currently has those materials. Then I would have students pair up and practice that. Then I would provide positive reinforcement through praise for students who model that behavior. We have to provide opportunities for students to model their understanding for others. Modeling within various environments and given context and stimuli vary. For example, we'll want to model emotional literacy not just within the social interactions within a classroom, but also within other environments. A teacher might say, when I am in line, my hands are by my side. I am an arm's length away from others. I keep my hands and feet to myself. Why do we think this might be important? Well, if Sally is in front of me and I bump into her, how do you think she might feel? Having conversations that utilize feeling words attached to different situations helps students better understand why we expect the behaviors we expect within the classroom, but also better understand how different situations cause different feelings. That would be the I do of a teacher modeling that conversation. Next, we would do by practicing. And then the you do would be students utilizing walking appropriately in line from the classroom to different settings. The next practice is demonstrate. We look for demonstration within the classroom and throughout the entire school environment. We want to participate in the implementation of initiatives to improve education and the teaching of the whole child. An example of this would be a school's PBIS committee that focuses on positive behaviors within the school. We want to praise the demonstration of social emotional literacy within the classroom. A student who comes over to comfort a friend who is sad is showing social emotional literacy within the classroom. And we want to provide positive reinforcement of that by telling them that we are proud that they acknowledged their friend's feelings and comforted their friend. We need to ask students to identify feelings that they experience in various settings. How do you feel when you score a goal in soccer? How do you feel when a teacher tells you that they're proud of you? How do you feel when a friend shares? How could we get others to experience these positive feelings? Developing emotional literacy within students involves time and an intentional embedment of opportunities for students to consider, reflect, discuss, and model healthy emotions for oneself and others. Why is this important? You see a quote here from Maurice Elias, and you can see the link to the article that this comes from. If kids do not have the skills to understand what they are feeling and how to properly label it, and how to regulate their strong feelings when necessary, they will not be successful in the classroom. From the earliest grades, children's academic and life trajectory is affected by their ability to pick up emotional nuance. Stories cannot be properly appreciated unless characters' feelings are well understood. From Dr. Seuss onward. The next practice is create or add challenge. We want to not just be able to label emotions, but to recognize them in others and how those emotions influence our actions, how to control our emotions. These are challenging. Moving from the self to other is a difficult task. However, in encouraging students to identify how certain actions are affecting characters within the books and identify how their actions have affected others, through modeling, scaffolds, and facilitated conversations, we are able to move students throughout the progression. The next practice is ask questions. As you can see, there is a picture here that says, "How are you feeling today?" And it has the emojis that tie to each of those feelings. In today's world, some of our children are more familiar with emojis than they would be with recognizing a feeling on another's face. We want to ask students, how do you think your actions made your friend feel? When the character got lost in the woods, how do you think that made them feel? What did I do? What should I have done? And what will I do differently next time? Are common reflection questions within PBIS. We want to be sure as we're asking questions that we are not leading students to the answers. For example, we would ask, when the character got lost in the woods, how do you think that made them feel? We wouldn't want to say, when the character got lost in the woods, they felt scared. Why do you think they felt scared? We don't want to label the feelings for them. We want to lead them to labeling the feelings themselves. Give assistance is the next practice. When we begin teaching students to label their emotions in order to get them to labeling them in others, we will need to provide them with scaffolds. As you can see on the left, there is a picture that says, "My first day of school, I felt happy, sad, scared, excited, shy, worried." These scaffolds are a key to students' learning so that they can understand characters' feelings and emotions and how those affect the plot of the story. The next picture is a social skill of the week from Skill Streaming, which breaks behaviors down into specific steps. This one says giving a compliment. The first one says decide what you want to tell the other person. Think of something you like. The next step is to decide exactly what to say. I like your drawing. The next step is to choose a good time and place. Should you be talking? As much as you might want to compliment a friend's shoes while you are in line, if you're not supposed to be talking in the hall, it's not an appropriate time to give a compliment. Then, when you do have a good time and place to provide someone with the compliment, give the compliment in a friendly way. You would want to say, I like your drawing. It would not be as nice to say, I like your drawing today. Most days I don't like your drawing at all. That would hurt a person's feelings. We want to be sure that we give a compliment in a friendly way. Providing students with discrete steps to accomplishing a social skill and providing them with an example of what it looks like can help support them in developing those social emotional skills. The next practice is providing information. It is important for us to provide them information about what their feelings are and how they can identify them before they are able to identify them. For some students, very little support will be needed in order to understand their emotions, but for some students, specific training will be needed in order for them to understand their feelings and understand how others might be feeling. Here's an example. Mad. My body starts to feel hot when someone does something that I don't like. I get mad when. This sentence starter allows them to both understand what mad feels like and then tie it to a situation that makes them mad. The picture gives them a visual for what mad might be like. The next says happy. I am smiling or laughing. I am enjoying what I am doing. I feel happy when. Again, providing them with scaffolds so they can get to a place where they start to understand their feelings. Visuals are very important for young students, as they don't always have the language to fully understand or appreciate feelings. To the right is an incredible 1 to 5 scale. Within this, you'll see at 1, a student is feeling great. What do they need to do when they're feeling that way? The column off to the right says enjoy the feeling, have fun. At a 2, things are pretty good. I can play with my squishy thing, think of my favorite things, say I'm going to be okay, take 3 or 4 deep breaths. This continues up the feeling chart from I've got a problem, I'm really upset, to a number 5 where I need some help. And what are the strategies the child can use when they need some help? Being specific with both the feeling and what can be done to manage the feeling is very important to students early on. The next is give directions. You can see here a copy of a school's positive behavior expectations in the bathroom. We need to be specific with our directions in order for students to understand how they need to be acting and how their actions affect others. Many of you have PBIS embedded within your schools. This provides the discrete understanding of the steps that are needed to be successful. The first says show respect. They need to treat others the way they want to be treated, allow others to have privacy, 1 person per stall. For some students, this level of explanation would be well understood. For others, they will need reteaching, more support, more detailed descriptions. For example, allowing others to have privacy. What does that look like? And they may need more frequent reinforcement in order to display the behaviors and continue to display them. The next says think safety. Wash hands with soap and water. Keep water in the sink. Report any problems to an adult. Why would it be important to keep water in the sink? We would need students to understand why that is a safety concern. Keeping water in the sink is important because if water gets on the floor and a student slips on that water, they could fall and get hurt. This would make them feel sad. This level of explanation helps students understand the why of the behavioral expectations and builds their social emotional literacy. On this slide, you can see the emotional literacy resources. The first resource is the Southeast KEA Weebly. This is a resource we created just for our region that will host all of our PowerPoints and trainings, as well as additional resources from across our region. A quick link to the emotional literacy progression is below that. Below that is a KEA Pinterest resource, which has great ideas that can be utilized within the classroom, aligning to the KEA construct progressions. The article, Teaching Emotional Literacy from Edutopia, is below that, and the Yale Center for Emotional Intelligence is linked below that.